Not an experienced sailor. In fact, she's barely sailed at all. But thanks to her own willingness to try almost anything once, Amanda recently found herself in the cockpit of one of the world's most advanced trimarans. It certainly isn't usual to entrust such a craft to a beginner, but then this is a very unusual sailboat.
The people of Los Angeles have seen some weird-looking things in their time. But that doesn't stop heads turning down on Cabrillo Beach when this boat struts its stuff. The craft is the brainchild of one of the designers of that controversial catamaran, Stars and Stripes, San Diego's contender for the America's Cup.
Meet Greg Ketterman and his latest design, the Trifoiler. It's a combination trimaran and hydrofoil. As you can see, there are 3 hulls, as in a traditional trimaran, but once it picks up speed, it lifts out of the water like a hydrofoil. There are 3 major advantages to this boat. It's steady, it's manoeuvrable, but best of all, it's fast. In fact, Greg believes he may have designed the fastest sailing boat in the world.
He wants the world sailing speed record. Unofficially, he's clocked top speeds of 38 knots, over 70 kilometres per hour. And in optimum conditions, he claims the Trifoiler can sail 2.5 times faster than the true or actual wind. Trifoiler is made mostly from lightweight carbon fibre. The foils that give the boat lift are attached to the sailboard-like hulls on either side. There's a third foil attached to the back of the central hull, which also acts as a rudder.
Right.
Eager to have a go, I take Greg's word for it that you don't need to be a master mariner to sail it.
It's the main sheet.
The one rope for both sails.
Right. And try not to get tangled up in this mess.
I'm not sure if Greg realised just how limited my experience was on the water. And as only he and his brother had sailed the boat before, we were all about to find out how it would handle with your average amateur at the helm. With a bit of trial and error, I worked out which way to point it, and before too long we picked up enough speed for the boat to rise onto its foils. This lifts the main hull completely out of the water, considerably reducing drag.
Wow, this is fantastic. I may not be setting any water speed records, but I'm certainly having fun. Steering is very simple. I turn the boat by using foot pedals, and that leaves my hands free to trim the sails. Any beginner can do it. And because you stay in the cockpit and you're not hanging off the side or on a trapeze, it's very safe. So this should have great potential for the leisure craft market. Whee!
Luckily for me, Greg has designed the boat so that the pilot doesn't need to worry about capsizing or even keeping the boat stable. It all happens automatically. The outriders act as levers, twisting the main beam in response to their position.
With those 2 main factors, the efficiency and that, what I call the dynamic leveling effect, when the weather foil actually pulls the boat down, forcing the boat to stay level, greatly increases the power. So we have lots of power, lots of efficiency, makes a real fast boat.
Eager to show us just how fast, Greg took to the water. The manoeuvrability of the boat is extraordinary. With a turning circle, even a windsurfer would envy. There's no awkward tacking or jibing here. Once up on the foils, the craft turns with little resistance. Besides aiming for speed records, Greg is working on a commercial design so that the Trifoiler can be rigged in the same time as your average beach catamaran. Already a large manufacturer is interested in producing the boat. Sailing this craft is not your typical day out on the water. It's much more breathtaking. It gives an amateur like me a chance to reach speeds on the wind that professionals in lesser craft only dream of.
the break, we'll take you closer to the heart of the cholesterol problem. Heart disease, in its various forms, is still the #1 killer in the Western world.
We're pretty sure of the main causes: smoking, high blood pressure, and high levels of cholesterol. And the main contributing factors to these are being overweight, poor diet, too much salt, too much alcohol, and lack of exercise.
The echocardiograph here is a recent advance which uses ultrasonic principles to produce images of the heart muscle's contraction and thickness, as well as a range of other information. But not only the heart is subject to the stress of high blood pressure. The whole body, with its myriad blood vessels, also feels it. And in that context, 2 new techniques developed here at the Baker Medical Research Institute in Melbourne should add a whole new dimension to predicting and preventing heart disease.
Can you please look at this red line, fix it with your both eyes and just stay in this position, please.
Ironically, it makes use of a device which ophthalmologists have been using for years, a retinal camera which enables the operator to view the inside and back of a patient's eye, the retina, and to take photographs of it. In this application, it becomes, in effect, a cholesterol camera.
Stay like this.
As it is now, the image is coming through onto this viewfinder and a film plane at the back here, but at the flick of a switch, it can be transferred through this video camera and onto these computers over here. Well, Dr. Jennings, what sort of thing is it telling you there?
Well, we're trying to look at the small blood vessels, which the eye is a very good spot as far as we're concerned, because we can look through it's transparent, the skin there. And we now know that from a whole lot of evidence that the very small blood vessels are where the problems with high blood pressure really begin.
So while the retinal camera itself is not new, the application and the development of the computer software to analyse the pictures is a major new step.
There are thick vessels you can see there and thinner ones. The thinner ones are in fact the arteries, and that's what we're interested in. The thicker ones are the veins. What we do is select the appropriate vessel, and then just by drawing a little line down the middle of it, that tells the program where to begin, and the program then goes and detects the edge of the blood vessel lumen. It then begins to look for the wall, which, as I said, is transparent to our vision a little bit further out, and we're able to then look at thickness of the wall from that.
The technique can detect high blood pressure in children as young as 12 and 13, and in the future, perhaps even younger.
Since we now know that these structural changes in the small vessels are so early in the development of high blood pressure, we're hoping to use them in a predictive sort of fashion to detect people who are at risk later on.
In a quite separate but complementary technique developed in another lab in the same building, researchers are using what are known as myographs to test the characteristics of tiny human arteries. They take a small sample of human skin tissue, a biopsy about the size of a fingernail, usually from the rump. Only the surface flap of skin above the muscle tissue is needed, and a tiny section of arterial blood vessel, not much thicker than a human hair, is excised. The almost invisible section is threaded through with wire. First one wire, then another, which are locked off on either side of the instrument. Then, by turning on the micrometer, the artery is spread apart in a way that approximates the pressure it is normally under in the body to study its reactivity and how high blood pressure changes the characteristics of small arteries.
We first of all have the patients who are coming to Gary Jennings' unit to have their eye vessels measured, and then we hope to take biopsies from those patients, bring them across here to correlate the reactivity of these skin vessels under very controlled environmental conditions in the myograph. So we need to see if we can find out what's happening to the reactivity of these blood vessels in young children before they go on to develop the high blood pressure, as their parents may have done.
The combination of the two techniques, the retinal camera and the myograph studies, should soon be giving researchers here unprecedented details of the properties of small blood vessels, including much earlier identification of danger signals and leading hopefully to a lower incidence of heart disease, Western society's #1 killer.
Next, we find out if our future is really in the stars.
This is good old Newtonian telescope designed by Sir Isaac Newton.
His nickname is Dr. Zodiac. He's suddenly become very controversial as a result of his theories on the Earth's magnetic field and its effect on us mere terrestrial mortals.
And there's been a tremendous build-up in the number of sunspots on the sun, and also a tremendous build-up in solar activity generally.
He is Dr. Percy Seymour, Senior Lecturer in Astronomy at the Plymouth Polytechnic. He's one of Britain's leading astronomers and an expert in cosmic magnetism. Magnetism has always played a significant role in the life of Plymouth. It was from here that Sir Francis Drake, the Pilgrim Fathers on the Mayflower, and Captain James Cook set sail, compass in hand, to broaden the British Empire. And their travels gave this city a prominent place on the world map. Well, now, magnetism has again brought prominence to Plymouth, but polarised the scientific world.
Welcome to the Plymouth Planetarium.
Dr. Seymour is also the director of the William Day Planetarium. He's controversial because he's come up with a mathematical theory most other astronomers say is a load of bunkum.
The positions of the planets at the birth, at the natural birth of a child, can label the inherited genetic characteristics of that child.
If that sounds a little familiar, what the good doctor is proposing is a scientific basis for the ancient practice of astrology. He believes it's not magical or mystical, but magnetic. But before we continue, let's just clarify one aspect of the theory.
It doesn't really provide any basis for predictive astrology, saying that on such and such a day, you are going to meet someone who's going to play a very big part in your life. I do not see my theory as providing a basis for that type of astrology. You have a series of biological clocks in the fetus that are genetically inherited, and basically the magnetic field of Earth, which carries information on planetary, solar, and lunar positions, are synchronizing these clocks and causing the countdown to birth, telling the baby when it ought to come into the world.
Taken step by step, the theory does seem logical enough. The sun itself has a huge magnetic field which is influenced by the alignment of the planets. It consumes more than 1 million tons of its own matter every second in an ongoing fusion reaction, and that creates a wind which blows throughout the solar system. While the Earth's own blanket of magnetism deflects the solar wind, its strength is changed by it. Those changes influence many beings on Earth. Ocean-dwelling bacteria use the field in their search for food, and birds and fish use it to navigate. So why not human behaviour as well?
The theory is actually a mathematical theory. It involves the mathematics of resonance, and resonance tells us that very small effects can have large consequences if there is a tuning between the force and the agency on which it is acting.
Dr. Seymour's theory has 3 parts to it. Let me show you. First of all, the alignment of the planets affects solar activity. That activity on the surface of the sun then influences the Earth's magnetic field. And finally, that magnetic field and changes to it affects the fetus to determine the moment of birth. The notion that we receive messages while in the womb is backed up by the work of French psychologist Michel Gauquelin. Over the last 30 years, Gauquelin's compared the exact birth times of thousands of professionals with the positions of the planets, and has proved that the positions of Mars, Venus, Saturn and Jupiter, for example, correspond with 9 personality traits. And Dr. Seymour says a physical agency has to be involved, a magnetic signal from the cosmos.
if a child was born on that point on the surface of the Earth, then for that child, the sun would just be setting. So the child is being born at sunset. Now, if in addition Saturn was in that position, this position, or right over there, then the likelihood of that child being a great scientist is considerably increased, according to my theory.
If the galactic pioneer from Plymouth is right, then he's made a profound contribution to our understanding of the human condition. But rather than a claim, Dr. Seymour has found himself alone in a very large universe. Astrologers think he's trying to debunk their craft, and astronomers, of course, are sceptical of anything to do with astrology.
It is uncomfortable to be in this position. I can't say it's something that I totally enjoy, because, I mean, some of the people who I knew very well and who I would have called friends are now no longer friends. The Secretary General of the International Astronomical Union, Dr. McNally, was interviewed by Omni, and he knows me very well. We have had many dealings over the years, and his reaction was that I think Percy's flipped his lid and I wouldn't follow him anywhere.
Being ostracised by the scientific community puts Dr. Seymour in the company of Copernicus, Galileo and Einstein, whose theories were all ridiculed at first. And like his illustrious predecessors, all he asks is an objective assessment of his work.
I found that the whole idea very exciting, to actually see that there might be more to some of the ancient wisdoms than we had so far, than up to now we had been willing to admit. But I was also quite aware that it was likely to lead to a lot of criticism from both sides. But I think that if you choose a life of science, that is a risk you've got to take. That a scientist must be willing to put his ideas on the line, even if he doesn't believe them as gospel truth. I don't believe that my theory is gospel truth. I'm saying, here's a theory, let's test it. This position.
So the cosmic controversy continues, and this time Jupiter rules the debate.
Over there. Then that child is likely to have the qualities that would make it a great politician.
And perhaps a beyond 2000 journalist?
Oh, well, they're the same as politicians.
Oh, my God.
The 1990s will be the decade of communication. We may all have personal phone numbers by the turn of the century and a telephone in our pocket the size of a calculator. For people with hearing problems, the alternative to the telephone has been this typewriter phone. Messages can be sent via the keyboard to other units. Incoming calls appear on the printer. Of course, this setup isn't as portable as a cellular phone. The hearing impaired have been missing out on the mobile communication boom. In the United States and Europe, that situation is changing. A deaf person on the move will now be able to make use of a national paging system that already services most major cities. Recently, they've added typewriter telephones to the network. It's possible to type in a 65-character message and have it transmitted instantly to the pager. The receiver vibrates to let the owner know a message is coming in, and friends without the typewriter phones can reach the pager through a relay service. Pagers freed many workers to do their business on the run, yet still keep a finger on the office pulse. Now, the hearing impaired will be able to enjoy the same wide horizons.
Still to come, New Guinea's successful attempts to manage rainforests. But after the break, part 2 of our search for a cure for AIDS.
Last week, we looked at the latest breakthroughs in the search for a vaccine against AIDS. But for the 8 million people who already carry the virus, drug treatments may hold the only hope. And in the United States, AIDS sufferers are prepared to take desperate measures. Underground smuggling rings are flourishing, distributing herbs, hormones and experimental drugs from all over the world. Even in orthodox medicine, AIDS action groups have been vocal in an effort to get the Food and Drug Administration to relax their standards and let drugs onto the market that haven't yet gone through the proper clinical trials.
Now, the problem with this is that patients are taking a big risk because nobody knows until the clinical trials are completed whether the drug works and what sort of trade-offs there are between its working and toxicity.
New Orleans may be best known for its exuberant jazz clubs and festivals, but on the darker side, the city houses a large population infected with the virus.
This is a guy who's had all kind of skin irritations before that, so he said he was going to restart the drug, and I've not heard from him.
Tulane Medical Center has joined with a group of hospitals in the New Orleans area to become part of the AIDS Clinical Trials Group.
Did not resolve the thrush, came back, was put on Nizoral.
These research centres have been set up to study new drugs to treat both the virus and the opportunistic infections caused by the disease.
This means that we have study designs where we look at different stages of the disease. We have study designs to look at patients who are asymptomatic, patients who have minimum symptoms and more symptoms, which are age-related complex or ARC, and then patients who've actually gone on to develop some form of AIDS, an opportunistic infection or malignancy.
This file is as thick as a phone book. All the data in here pertains to just one patient, number 1107, a male who's HIV positive and is beginning to show symptoms of the disease. He's being treated with DDI. In these folders is every single variable of each patient's treatment, from the combination of drugs to dosage, side effects, and of course the way their immune systems are responding to treatment. The records have to be this detailed because the ultimate aim is to pinpoint which drugs work, which don't, and which ones should be released onto the world market. With over 100 volunteer patients in many different clinical studies, it's a huge logistical effort. All the data is logged onto computers and sent to a central database to be analysed. For patients on the trial, the normally expensive drugs are free, but they must come in for regular checkups so every aspect of their progress can be monitored.
Here you are for your week 16 visit on study. How have you done with your medication since I last saw you?
I've taken the Dapsone once a day, ACT 5 times a day, and basically I've done all right. I haven't missed any doses.
The only FDA-approved drug, AZT, has also been the most successful drug so far, doubling the survival time of people with AIDS. However, it can produce severe side effects like anemia and nausea, causing as many as 40% of patients to abandon treatment.
I'm going to examine your eyes.
A new drug, DDI, has been approved for trials. It works by slowing the rate at which the virus replicates itself in human cells and spreads throughout the immune system. But it too can be toxic to users. Some patients have died from inflammation of the pancreas. Both these drugs target the enzyme which allows the virus to replicate inside the cell. The wave of the future will be drugs that attack the virus in other stages, such as its entry and exit point from the cell. A new drug called CD4 is under trial. It works by blocking the entry of the virus to the cell. Alpha interferon, originally developed as an anti-cancer treatment, has also proved promising by preventing the virus from leaving the cell and infecting others.
Let's check your neck for any lymph gland enlargement.
The clinical trials are about mixing and matching these drugs to find combinations that work at different stages of the disease.
Pull up your shirt here.
But how long will it be before AIDS is a curable disease?
Let it out.
Well, I think there should be a distinction between treatment and cure. I think we're already into the stage where HIV infection is a treatable disease. Cure is a long ways off. There's no virus at the present time no viral infection that we know how to cure. And I think the analogy that some people have made to diabetes is a good one. We don't have a cure for diabetes, but we have treatment.
The other frontiers of research are being pushed to help the littlest victims of the disease. Nowadays, not only doctors, but politicians and public figures are recognising the plight of babies with AIDS. But there's still some mystery surrounding when the babies get infected. For some, it's in utero. For others, it's during the birth process.
Now, if most kids were infected during the birth process, then that gives us an opportunity to interrupt transmission. There's maybe something we could do either to the mother late in pregnancy or to the newborn baby. Give them a medication, give them some antibody, give them a vaccine perhaps, and actually prevent transmission from occurring. And that's the hope, and that's the thrust of the trials that are being designed right now.
The fight against the virus is proceeding on all fronts. Promising reports have come from America, where an AIDS patient with the skin cancer Kaposi sarcoma has undergone a hypothermia treatment, successful on other cancers. His blood was heated to 44 degrees Celsius for 2 hours. The result? The skin lesions healed and the patient's blood tested HIV negative. However, this is not a cure, rather a suppressive treatment. The AIDS virus may disappear from the blood, but will still be present in the genetic material of the patient's cells, so will eventually reappear. Vaccinations, drug treatments and even gene therapy are all forms of artillery in the war that continues to claim so many victims. Public education to prevent infection in the first place is still imperative, especially in poorer nations where the disease is on the increase. Science is making progress, but it's still a long way to go to banish the spectre of AIDS from humankind.
Human beings hidden by the dark may think they're safe from detection, but warm bodies radiate in the infrared spectrum, just below the frequency of light we can see, and with the right equipment, their position can be pinpointed. Infrared detectors are commonly used by the military or by rescue teams searching for disaster victims. And now this handheld device has appeared to help out the security industry on more mundane nighttime patrols. A lens focuses infrared radiation on an internal sensor. So when it spots a change in the background temperature, the device vibrates and a warning light flashes. And you'll hear it rattling again. That temperature change could mean a burglar in the shadows and save our night watchman from an ambush. It's certainly better than wandering around with a gun at the ready.
Up next, man's inhumanity to the manatee. Oh no. I suppose I should get out and look at the damage. It's not my first time. The insurance company is really going to love me. I was lucky this time, but hopefully it won't happen again, because in fact this car has been fitted with 3 of these sensors which detect how far away an object is from the car, up to a distance of 5 metres as it reverses towards it. They fit neatly on the car's bumper and use ultrasonics, very high-frequency sound waves, to locate obstacles. A microprocessor then translates this information into a one-figure display. The digital readout sits on the dashboard in the front of the car, obviously in a position where it can be seen quite clearly. And as I begin to reverse, a warning alarm tells me that I'm approaching an object, and the display is showing 2.46 metres. Now, the closer I get, the more persistent the alarm becomes until it reaches the consistent beep that you're hearing now. The display also comes up with an unmistakable stop or hit message. When driving forward, the unit will also warn of a vehicle coming up close behind and how far away it is. But in this car, they won't be tailing me for long.
The southern state of Florida in the USA, where speedboats and sunshine are a way of life and an attraction for thousands of people who flock to the region every year to live out that retirement dream.
Unfortunately, there is a price to pay in most boom regions, and 9 times out of 10, it's environmental. The warm inland waterways of Florida are a second home to tens of thousands of boating enthusiasts, but they're also home to the graceful and gentle manatee. As you might guess, it's very much a no contest between the manatees and the boats, and if things keep progressing the way they have been, then it won't be too long before we see the last manatee disappear from the planet.
In some ways, the manatee is its own worst enemy. A very placid mammal, they're slow to move away from humans. They tend to swim in fairly shallow water, often close to the surface. Subsequently, boating accidents are common. 100 of these gentle creatures died last year. At least 40 were hit by boats. That's a frightening percentage from an estimated total population of only 1,200. Environmentalists are having a tough time trying to convince the boaters to slow down.
There are a lot of people that are opposed, so to speak, to having their rights to the waterways infringed upon. And so it's going to be a little bit of an effort to try and convince these people that the manatees do come first.
If the manatees are to survive, then we must learn more about them. Nothing to do with these creatures happens very quickly. Gestation lasts 12 to 14 months, and a female might give birth just once every 5 years. The experts at Disney World's Epcot Centre hope to provide many more answers. While Jean-Pierre and Lorelei are 2 of the most popular attractions at the Living Seas exhibition, the staff here hope the pair do more than just attract visitors.
Ultimately, we would like for them to procreate. But while they're here, we have the opportunity to study a lot of their activity cycles, their sleep cycles, their daily activity cycles, consumption, and so on.
Both Lorelei and Jean-Pierre will consume up to about 10% of their body weight in food every day, feasting on a diet of sprouts, lettuce, carrots, apples, bananas, and for special treats, even melons and strawberries. These 2 are probably the best fed manatees in the world, but their relations in the wild are finding it increasingly difficult with human encroachment on their territory and the threat of pollutants in their feed. There you are. Yum, yum.
In the long term, pollution presents as big a threat as the boats.
With more and more people moving to Florida and more pollutants becoming incorporated into the water system, that could become a very big problem. Here we're able to control the quality of the food that we offer them, which is a benefit to them. We know where the food comes from and that it is a good quality.
To overcome the problem of contaminated food for Jean-Pierre and Lorelei, Epcot Centre staff went offshore, in fact way offshore to England, and a firm called Landsaver.
Landsaver grass is grown hydroponically, that is, without soil. It's a barley seed that has no additives and is a completely natural product. The majority of it is sold to the equine industry, where a high-quality feed is essential. Racehorse trainers work on the theory that if they can't eat it themselves, they won't feed it to their horses. I don't think I'll ever become a racehorse trainer. It takes just 6 days for the seed to reach this stage, which is the final product. These climate-controlled chambers come in varying sizes. This one can produce 250 kilograms of grass every day, which is really quite extraordinary. For the manatee, the Landsaver process is something of a lifesaver.
Only the highest quality food and service for JP and Lorelei. But this seemingly luxurious existence is essential if experts are to gather the information needed to ensure the species' survival. Convincing Florida's burgeoning boating population that they can also play a part in the manatee's future appears to be the hardest job of all.
rainforest. What do you think about this depends on where you live. Those who've already achieved a certain standard of living usually want it saved. Yet countries still to develop often want their major resource logged, converted into cash to fund future development. Now that problem is the same wherever there's forest. The Amazon, Borneo, Vanuatu. This just happens to be Papua New Guinea. But here, there's encouraging work on a solution.
While this is a story about the sawmill that saved the forest, it really begins here. Tucked away in the University of Technology at Lae is the Appropriate Technology Development Institute. Their aim is to rekindle local pride in self-sufficiency by developing technology that's sensitive to the needs of the people. Experiment with devices that make economic sense as well as environmental sense. A prototype low-tech cardamom dryer is one being developed. And these paddle wheels for water-driven pulpers that enable local villagers to process their coffee crop, adding value to the produce rather than just selling the raw beans. More money, more employment and no fuel bills, as the local creek supplies the power. Those ideas that work end up being marketed through their retail outlet and commercial arm, where pride of place is taken by their biggest success, the Walkabout Sawmill. And this is why 400 of them have been sold. It might be small scale and low cost, but the end result, the timber milled straight from felled logs, is just the same as timber produced from multi-million-dollar logging and sawmill operations. The Walkabout has an 8-metre track, assembled from smaller portable components. A hand winch system controls the movement of the saw along the track. It can cut timber lengths up to 6.5 metres in one pass of the saw. It can also easily be adjusted for differing dimensions. With a small team of operators, each unit can produce 3 cubic metres of timber per day. But if it's so efficient at cutting up trees, how does this sawmill save the forest? The answer lies in part with the economics of village life. The traditional resource owners can sell off the logging rights to their forest, but the financial gains can be small and short-term. Rainforest timber is a valuable commodity, but the big profits come after it's been cut down and processed as sawn timber. For any long-term financial gains, the village has to become involved in this value-added stage. The answer is to go into business themselves. For around $7,000, a village could buy a Walkabout sawmill and start managing the harvest of their own forests.
If cut and milled into timber, this tree would return 15 times the income as compared to just flogging off the logging rights to some large company. Put another way, instead of having to fell 15 trees, the same income to the village is derived from milling just this one.
And it's at this point that the Walkabout sawmill lives up to its name. All the components can be easily carried to the site on foot. The very biggest section is 2 metres in length. It's technology designed to a human scale, because such easy portability and assembly where the tree falls turns out to be crucial in saving the forest. The problems with conventional operations is well known. It's the shifting of the tree from where it's fallen to get it to the mill that creates most of the damage. So, apart from the throughput needed to recoup on capital expenditure for skidders and bulldozers, it's the access roads for and the damage caused by such heavy machinery that poses an ongoing threat to the forest. The Walkabout sawmill has shown a technical alternative, and the hope is for a sustainable forest industry for future generations. Current wholesale logging clears 100,000 hectares of Papua New Guinea a year. And finally, to tidy up this story, a look at a related project, also from the Appropriate Technology Development Institute. With every felled tree, there's more than just the millable timber. There's all those bits and pieces, the branches, the offcuts. But how can they be utilised? This family group has been shown how to clean up for profit.
So, instead of selling the offcuts of the milling process and the debris from the logging process as a bundle of firewood, the value has been added by simply converting it into charcoal.
These are important lessons to be learned if this generation is ever to reap the benefits from the forests. The appropriate technology is now available, and increasingly, so is the will. It can only mean good news for the world's tropical rainforests.
For some people, these games can be a lot of fun, but there is a growing concern amongst doctors and teachers that children are spending too many precious hours in this fantasy world of video games. A new medical term has even been coined, Nintendonitis, named after one of the most popular games, Nintendo. The symptoms include strained shoulders and thumb muscles, eye twitching, general nervousness, and the inability to concentrate at school. Well, this lock is rather aptly named. It's called Homework First, and it's designed to control the addiction. It's very simply a J-bolt, which slips into a slot at the bottom of the control deck, and then this 4-digit combination lock drops in over the top of it, and we lock it off, and that means no cartridge can be inserted. So it's back to plain old-fashioned homework before the games can begin. And that's all we have time for this week. On our next edition, we keep track of the world's fastest cars. A new timing system will leave the humble stopwatch in its dust. The Swiss Alps are quickly becoming an environmental disaster. Is there time to save them? And China's struggle towards zero population growth, birth control for the billions, a reversible sterilisation treatment for men. That's next on Beyond 2000. I hope you'll join us then.